Thank you, Natasha. Let me just plug in. Thanks for making it today, and appreciate it to Joe and Barry for speaking at the event today. Much appreciated. Real insightful as well. Understand a lot more about Leicester City Council. I've been at JGP for about 14 years, and I'm the head of client partnerships. So I've done some work advertising-led with Leicester City Council, but what I knew about you then to where you are now is a massive difference. And thanks for the insight as well, Barry. Hopefully we can assist you in the campaign that I was talking to Ash about yesterday. So I know a lot of you know about Jobs Go Public and who we are. When I first joined, we were back then called New Media because we're a digital online job board, and a lot of people just know us for the job board. But over time, we've developed the services that we offer. So now we kind of see ourselves as a digital resourcing agency. We have an applicant tracking system. We do strategic project campaign management. We do direct sourcing, so we can offer that full end-to-end services and solution. But a lot of the projects that I'm involved in and us as a business are involved in is all around employee value proposition and how we can help organisations do that and implement. We don't tend to do it for a whole organisation, we do it for departments. So a lot of the projects I work on are, as you can imagine, around social services within local authorities, planning, building control surveying, finance, adult social care. Those are the projects that I'm typically working on at the moment, and we go in and we really try and understand about their culture, their values, and we try and take that to market for them and put a strategic attraction campaign alongside that. So I just wanted to kind of give you our take on EVP, employee value proposition, and how you can maybe take some of the insights that we have at JGP and maybe implement them in your own teams. So where would we love to work? So Google, Facebook, Apple, these are all sought after places to work. Why? Is it because they've got hammocks? Is it because they offer free dry cleaning services or breakfast and lunches? Or is it because they offer the jobs that you want? But what they're doing really well is branding themselves to the market really, really well. What is important when it comes to an EVP? So what is describe the characteristics and appeal of working for an organisation. Are you currently doing that at the moment? And we talked about the strategy that you've implemented at Leicester City Council. In a market where 91% of job seekers think company culture is more important, and 80% of candidates consider employer brand, do companies have a strong employee value proposition? According to the Corporate Leadership Council's research, a well thought through and executed EVP can improve the commitment of hires by up to 30%, re-engage with disenchanted workforce. That's really huge at the moment because that impacts the retention that you have within the business. And reduce the new hire premiums as well, so lack of focus on agency spend or direct sourcing, executive resourcing companies. Two of the main problems that we encounter when working with organisations are they struggle to differentiate themselves from their competition. So I talked about what I'm doing at the moment within social services, and I typically work with the 32 London boroughs. They all have the same issues, trying to recruit to the same types of roles. So what differentiates themselves from each other? Some people want to join a social work service that needs to improve. Some want to join a service that is leading from the front. So it's appealing to the different mindset and how do you go about that. And the branding, we talked about it, Barry. Does it actually reflect what it's like to work within your organisation? And you have to be honest. And you talked about that. That's what you're now trying to do or doing. What is an employee value proposition? So for me, it's why should I work for your organisation, but also what can you offer me as a candidate? What can you help me with my CV and my career? It's a written statement as well that you can use in promotional materials, your recruitment, advertising, careers pages. We talked about lack of careers pages. You know, at the moment, I think there's a stat that I think 74% of local authorities don't have a dedicated careers page. They just have a jobs portal where the jobs are presented. And that's not going to sell the service. You know, just directing jobs and careers, you're sent to a list of jobs. You're not engaging with candidates in the right way. Now, what you do find is within certain organisations, departments are doing it, but the whole organisation isn't doing it, and that's what you want to try and do, get everybody on board with that. It's an example of a good value proposition where you can you see it through all of their advertising. Let's make that go quicker. There's no one kind of Googler, so we're always looking for people who can bring new perspectives and life experiences to our teams. If you're looking for a place that values curiosity, passion and desire to learn, if you're seeking colleagues who are big thinkers, eager on fresh challenges as a team, then you're a future Googler. Now, they put that message throughout all of their advertising and all of their literature in the market as well. So again, have a think about what you're doing there. Now, this is what we kind of go through when we work with a client on curating an employer value proposition. So the first phase for us is discover, and that's about doing a bit of research and understanding the culture within the organisation at the moment. Do you have everyone on board? So that's just not from the ground level, but right up to chief exec level. Is everybody on board with the mission statement, with the objective that you're trying to achieve? How do you measure? What metrics do you currently have in place to measure a strong EVP? And be clear about what your competitors are doing, so you can start to understand how you differentiate yourselves from them. Phase 2 is analyse. So research and understand why people want to work for you, why people continue to stay with your organisation and not leave. Why do people leave? Do you do exit interviews? Do you really understand that? Do you do exit interviews for the sake of doing it? Do you use that information? Is it filtered down back to the team? You know, are the managers do they understand why people are leaving their teams, or does that information just stay at HR level? Why do these people like to work at your organisation? Do you know why they want to join? What is it about it? Is it the brand? Is it the role? Is it the culture? Is it the team? Is it the management structure? Are their voices heard? And understand what the differences and answers across the groups of people. We talked about the diversity inclusion between the gender, the length of service, seniority, and all the different departments that make that up as well. So we do often do surveys within organisations, and this is just some of the data that is kicked out across the organisations that we work with. So one of the most important things, 3/4 of the candidates, you know, they're more interested in the work-life balance side of things. So that's really important, and again, that comes with how experienced you are. I won't say age, but how experienced you are. No, for me, it's really, really important. I've got a young family now, so work-life balance for me, for my next role or for my current role, is really important. Progression opportunities is always up there, and training and development. Now, we didn't want to put salary in there because that's kind of a given. That's always in the top 5. But these are the 3 that we look to work with with organisations. What makes candidates feel valued? The usual, what you'd expect: recognition, flexible working, and progression. And it's just kind of the opposite of what I've been talking about in terms of what makes people feel undervalued. Ideas ignored, you know, and that's about being inclusive with your organisation as well. The third phase is design. So creating a candidate persona. And creating a candidate persona is by doing some market research, but also using your existing team and understanding what motivates them and using that in your statement. To define each of your components within the employer value proposition. I don't know if any of you have a draft value or have a value proposition statement, but this is a good start. This is a good time to do that at the design stage. Review, you talked about it, all the stuff that you're reviewing at the moment, the benefits, the career progression, the compensation, the work environment, the culture, all of these things contribute. And the fourth phase is launching. So do you have any employee handbook or policies for internal? How do they access that? Is it just the intranet? Are they just told where they can see it? Are they directed to it? Website careers pages, the job descriptions, are they up to date? Are they still quite archaic? Who writes the job descriptions? Is it HR? Is it the managers? The advertising, have the same message throughout all your advertising, on your social media. And then how do you embed it? So is it reflected in the candidate experience? We talked about onboarding on our table. Onboarding is a huge part of keeping candidates in terms of the retention. Employee offboarding as well. So when candidates leave, when staff leave, how are they leaving the organisation? Because that's really important as well. They could put a review on Glassdoor. Glassdoor is only increasing now in terms of visitors. And how do you measure a strong employee value proposition? Turnover is obviously quite key to that, but also retention, the average cost per hire, staff engagement. So there are a number of ways which you can measure a strong employee value proposition. Just some examples of some high-performing EVPs, HubSpot. And I just Googled this. There's another one here called Stripe. And these guys are ticking all of those boxes that I just talked about, with retention. Diversity kind of mirrors what Barry was talking about, is really important. Companies with employ a good mix of black and minority ethnic backgrounds are 35% more likely to outperform their competitors. That's a statistical fact there. Attracting diversity, it's all about using different types of language, inclusive language, and career sites, and using different platforms to target relevant people as well. Gamification as well is really, I wouldn't say up and coming, but within the public not-for-profit sector, gamification is starting to really target the apprentice, the graduate level. So it's about using the right tools to target the right type of candidate as well. We all know this is about the job descriptions that we currently look at the moment. They're pretty standard, and sometimes you'll find an advert, it just rehashes the job description. So, it's about, we've got a compliment from Caroline at Sanctuary about one of your adverts, the tone. So it's about using the right tone to talk to the candidates. Is the job board accessible? Your website, so this is the first kind of engagement that the candidate gets when they log onto your website. And if you're sending them to a list of jobs, it's not really engaging with the candidate. So have a think about what you can do on your own website. If you can have some dedicated pages where like Leicester City Council do, where they're talking about the benefits and the calculator. What other information can you provide that candidate other than the job ad and how to apply? Employee testimonials. Candidates would much rather hear from existing staff than chief execs top line. The amount of microsites that we produce where we're saying, okay, look, we want testimonials, and can we have a testimonials on the homepage, or a letter from an existing candidate that said, no, the council wants to put their face on the microsite. And we see that doesn't get the most engagement on the site. We find that the testimonials gets a much higher hit rate than the homepage, where you've got a welcome letter from the councillor of the borough. So that's quite important. Podcasts and video, people engage with information in different ways. So it's about providing content in different platforms, and having that multi-mix of an attraction solution to engage with relevant candidates. And just some tips to kind of second what people have been talking about. Be honest about where you currently are within your organisation and your messaging, and be consistent with your messaging as well. If it's getting better, you can constantly change the message. Use a multitude of different platforms, and use your network as well to try and get that message out there to the market. So that's it from me. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Neel.